Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum. I'm your host, Citizen Strife, and today we're going to talk about an anime that is near and dear to my heart and has been for the past 20 years or so. Because other anime shows have been either like last 10 years, like in Psychopaths, last 2 or 3, like Land of the Lustrous. This one is going back very far. As a bit of a primer for this, I became an anime fan back in high school. It was, I think, the year 2000. So at the time, I would have been 15, and I'm way older than that now. I was watching a couple of things off and on Toonami, because Toonami was kind of that gateway for that sort of thing because we didn't have subscription services back then, so it was pretty much either get videotapes or DVDs because DVDs were still a thing back then, and get hopefully just stay up late and watch shows. My whole thing was to tape them on VHS tapes. I had like 50 or 60 different VHS tapes full of just different anime shows, and of course I don't have them anymore, but one of the ones that I always stayed up to watch was the Big O. And the Big O was like late 90s, early 2000s. It was a 2-season show that Adult Swim had paid for second seasons because it was one of those ones that they enjoyed distributing on their channel. The thing about Big O is that a lot of anime, even now, like for a while, it was like all high school. It's based on teenagers in most cases, or even just younger kids and young adults and stuff like that. Big O, to me, was one of those shows looking back that had an older cast, had people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, stuff like that. And the older that I get, the more I kind of resonate with the ones that, speak to my age range. And even then, back then, it's still like, this is way different than what you'd get because you're not in a teenage mindset. You're in the mindset of basically, what if Batman was an anime, right? Batman sure wasn't the only influence for sure, but you can see it. You can see all of the Batman or film noir influences. You can see like sort of James Bondish aesthetic on occasion, and it really stood out because I had all this knowledge because I was a Batman fan, so I knew like you see it once and it's just like, okay, if I was to show anybody an anime, what would I go towards, right? Well, one, I'd go for a Cowboy Bebop because there's like no Japanese-ness, right? There's no high schools, there's no like weird romances, stuff like, it's kind of that stuff, right? Because when you think of Japanese anime, you think of certain things. But to me, when I'm thinking, okay, how do I get somebody from America involved in a show? Well, I take the approach of this thing is like this show that we would know. And let's face it, this show is Batman, but done with a Japanese mindset. And then you add in the mech show thing. And I'm not the biggest mech guy. I know that it was around long before stuff like Evangelion, but Evangelion popularized it. But even then, I wasn't like against the idea of a mech show. But so you have this. I love the Batman aesthetic. I like the characters that they're going for. I like the James Bondness of it all. And then you add this whole just gigantic Godzilla size fucking robots. It's like, oh, okay, I think I can get into this. So Big O was always one of those like standard bearers for me. Is like, okay, I don't just like this. I could show like my parents or my friends this, and it wouldn't look out of place from another country. Because there's even still, I think it's like people understand anime is a thing now, but it was still very niche. Imagine back in the 2000s when you're like, this is from another country? Holy shit. So there is that. There's also the like design aesthetic, which I will go into a little bit more. I don't know where the influences specifically lie, but the character, like eyes, eyebrows, faces, the facial features certainly look like something like a Cyborg 009 or something really old school, like from a 70s, 80s kind of thing, designed from that late 90s perspective still. So it's one of those ones that I go back and it still looks very different. And then you add in all that film noir shtick, and it's like, oh, this is meant to be a darker, edgier kind of show, but has all this just dripping ephemera from things. And there's so much to really get into. It's not the perfect show, but it is one of my favorite shows. Let's see here. But we do have to kind of start with Big O, with Roger Smith, the character. And Roger Smith in the American version, because again, I go by the American voice actors here, was voiced by Stephen J. Bloom. And outside of David Hayter, who was Solid Snake, I don't know of any like voice actor like in any field that is as well known as Stephen J. Bloom, because for that like early to mid 2000s and even into like late 2000s period, like if you saw him in an anime, he was probably the lead role or he was the lead villain role. His voice is like ingrained in my head, right? Everybody knows him as Spike Spiegel from Bebop, but he was Roger Smith in this. He was Mugen in Samurai Champloo. He's even still in like the lead role of Lost Judgment that came out, the new Yakuza game, right? So it's not like he isn't still working. It's just been like 20 years. He was freaking oh god, he was Vincent in the Advent Children movie, Final Fantasy VII. So people knew he was a good actor, and I still maintain he's probably the best well-known actor other than David Hayter. And I could be wrong, but you have those people like Troy Baker, Johnny Young Bosch, and whatnot. Steve Bloom's more well-known than all of them, and probably still is. And I would put him as like the best voice actor. Like I like David Hayter, but Steve Bloom is just so good at anything. But he portrays Roger Smith as this. It is Bruce Wayne, bar none. It is Bruce Wayne meets James Bond meets some squirrely dork. He does have kind of a dorkish side to him. He's not as suave as James Bond. He's more like, he does get the ladies, but it's not like he's great at it. He has this weird set of rules that he applies himself to, and it could just be because he's a self-made man or has all this money and doesn't really know what to do with. These things, like he only lets beautiful women in his house, this like big loft above a bank. He's got this thing where nobody can touch his desk, because he has this weird like fascination with hourglasses, whether he makes them himself or he buys them. I think he actually makes them. He just makes these hourglasses and just sits on his desk forever. And he's got all these rules again, like he doesn't want to use violence and he doesn't like to use guns, and yet he knows how to use them. So it's like, what? It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. But he comes off as Bruce Wayne with a little bit of like the uncertain Bruce Wayne, but he's still very skillful because his job in the city is a negotiator. What that amounts to is, unlike, like, he doesn't have a secret identity, I suppose. His secret identity is he pilots the Big O. Like, certain people know he does, but in general, no. That is a superpower. In general, he's Roger Smith. People know who he is because he's, like, somewhat of a Bruce Wayne type, somewhat of a James Bond type. He's like a private investigator meets arbitrator, whatever. It's a negotiator. So he does, like, sort of detective work, finding people in these cases. He finds missing persons. He investigates like weird science experiments. He investigates, stolen merchandise. and other things. Or he just sends, hey, I have this check from these guys to make sure you shut up, or I've been sent to silence you, or whatever, you know. More of the time, it involves giant robots because that's how you get Big O into the situation. So Big O is his what's known as a Megadeus. The Megadeus is a giant fuck off robot. And in certain shows, you get this like really sleek, really like fast movement, fast action, and like they're moving at the speed of no. This thing is just this big, destructive, gigantic mess. It moves very slowly. It moves very methodically. It just tears shit up. It's got these like giant pistons for arms. It's like he punches a dude and then he throws the piston and then it just blows shit up. It like blows compressed air to blows up like the nearby buildings. They make a big deal about how much damage this thing could do, and he's not the only one. There's like several Megadeuces really, but Big O is his. There's a concept of whether Big O itself has a soul or has a personality rather than just something that Roger controls. So it goes into the plot a little bit later, but I'll deal with that once I introduce more of the cast. But suffice it to say, Roger can handle himself, but when the big freaking mechs get involved, and they always get involved because they're the monsters of the week, Big O is there with specialty weaponry, whether Roger, specifically knows it or not, to just wreck face. And that's always fun. At his side, an episode, like right from episode 1, is the second main character, R. Dorothy Wainwright. She was voiced by Leah Sargent, who I know her mostly as Shia Onuzuki from the game series Xenosaga. So the people who made Xenogears made Xenosaga after it. She was the main character for most of those games. Unfortunately, she wasn't brought back for the second one, which make that game suck, but I'll deal with that when I deal with it. Anyway, Leah was a voice actor from the time period. She's really good in this as our Dorothy. She was also Millie from Trigun, to that crossover from that late 90s period, right? But she plays our Dorothy Wainwright as very stoic. She doesn't have a sense of humor. She is an android, and she is not funny. She is Roger's counterbalance because she doesn't understand anything in her life, but she's like, the way they play androids here is like super heavy, super dense, super stoic, but they also like coexist with humanity. Some people know that androids exist. Some people know that they aren't even androids at all. Like some of them, in like our Dorothy's case, like you can look at her and be like, oh, I don't even know she's an android. She has really freaking pale ass white skin, but other than that, unless she told you, you take one look at her and she may not be an android. So it creates a dynamic of where Roger and Dorothy kind of play off each other, because Roger is this kind of like sometimes a goofy idiot, a well-meaning and well-to-do idiot, but she's just like there along for the ride because he protected her and saved her life on occasion. And it's like, okay, well, I'm his assistant in this fuck off loft mansion thing, but she doesn't like go above and beyond to just not fuck with him too. So while she's on missions, she helps him out and stuff, but she's also like his alarm clock and whatever, because she can play the piano really well. She was designed to, sing and, play instruments on occasion. And one of the jokes early in the series is that if Roger doesn't wake up early enough, she'll play this little ditty that's like this really just annoying song on the piano and wake his ass up because he's dumb. So they play off each other well, despite the fact that it's the dry sense of humor that works. I've always liked our Dorothy, and they play off well each other, and they're always like together in that sense. And they do have a bit of like back and forth of like, would you fall in love with an android? Would you not? Like, it's played, it's played very straight, but they also don't overdo it. It is a sort of romance, but they don't like expressly stated. They make you wait the entire show to kind of give you the answers to those kinds of questions. So it's not really a romantic relationship between a man and a machine kind of thing, but there is hints of it there, and I do enjoy it. Mostly because there's a second female character who's always fucking with everything. That would be Angel, voiced by Wendy Lee. And Wendy was Faye Valentine from Bebop. She was, oh god, Haruhi Suzumiya from, well, Haruhi, right? But along with Steve Bloom, it's like Wendy Lee's been in everything, and she still is, right? So it was kind of funny for like 4 or 5 years you couldn't like go a show without those two either being the leads or being like love interests in a show, mostly by accident, I guess. But I'm guessing the dub companies probably just had a laugh every time. It was just like, why are they always like the main leads or the main love? It's weird, but it's funny anyway. Angel originally is part of like an antagonist group, I suppose. And this will come out into play when she's part of Paradigm, leading into yet another character. But for her sake, she's that like Catwoman, for lack of a better term. She's, you don't know which side she's on. She's sort of like Roger, but she doesn't like him. But she's like a spy, but she's not a spy. You can't tell what, you know, that sort of thing. You can't tell what she's doing, but she's always messing with people, or she's in a position of like pseudo power as a secretary or something. So she knows more than she lets on, and she's always like in missions to mess around. Like she ends up being one of the first people that knows that Roger is the pilot of Big O. But at the same time, they also like forge this like interesting, again, a romance that blooms. It happens later, and it's not super specific, though they do try. And there are scenes here and there where Roger and Angel get along and work together, but you still have that push-pull of, why does this super spy lady fall for this super spy dude? Well, it makes sense, but they're on opposite. Are they on opposite sides? They don't know. So there's a, you know, an overarching mystery that goes on midway through the season, or through the show, that you just can never tell. So Angel and Roger are always good. So if you have a Bruce Wayne, you have to have an Alfred. And in this show, it's Norman Burke. He was played by two different actors in this. So one season had one guy, another season had another guy. It made it weird, because normally you're supposed to have the same actors portrayed, and you know, all the way through. But you know, it is what it is. They couldn't get the same guy. But yeah, Norman is Alfred. And the interesting thing with Norman is that he has the know-how to repair Big O, or to use guns or whatever. So again, just like Alfred, he has the knowledge that you wouldn't expect a butler to have. So think of what an Alfred would do, and think of what a Norman would do. That's all you kind of need to know with him. It is fun because it adds that Batman aesthetic even more. You have Major and Colonel Dawson, who's played by Peter Lorre. From what I remember, I haven't looked this up recently, but I could swear it's the same guy. Peter Lorre was Vulcan Raven, one of the main antagonists of Metal Gear Solid. So Vulcan Raven was the weird shaman dude who was in the tank, and then he fought Snake in that ice cooler place with the Gatling gun. It's that guy. So Dawson is the Commissioner Gordon, basically, and he's played just completely curmudgeon. He's a friend of Rogers, but like he knows that Big O's blowing shit up, and he's like part of the military police in the city. And he's not really fond of what Big O is doing, but he also has to be like, well, I don't know what the fuck I can do. I can handle humans, I can handle small firearms, I can't handle these gigantic fuck off machines. So he kind of just lets shit happen. The main problem is that every time Big O shows up, he has to come from the underground, and every time Big O shows up, it's like, oh, there goes another road. You broke another building. So I gotta pay for it, or I gotta sign a fucking reimbursement fee. So he begrudgingly accepts that Big O is a monster that is kind of necessary, the necessary evil. Which is funny because Dawson and Roger are best friends, so they share drinks together. They have that fun like intrigue together. Of Dawson doesn't know he's Big O until like super late. So Dawson just has to work with Roger on that, like, I'm just a friend of his, and like, why does Big O do all this shit? Well, he doesn't know that Roger's doing it because he has no choice, really. Because, as I've said, Roger is capable with a gun, and he was a former police officer. So there's this like, Roger was a member of the police. They don't really show why he left, but he's very knowledgeable in firearms and like upholding the law and such. So they know each other, and so that friendship is always fun. And now we get into the villains, and we start with Alex Rosewater. Alex Rosewater was voiced by Michael Forrest. I know him mostly for like just bit parts in anime shows here and there. This was the one I knew him most from. It's kind of funny. I told my dad, I think I showed my dad one of these episodes, and he recognized the dude's voice, or he recognized the dude's name, Michael Forrest. And I was like, well, I don't remember. It's like, and he showed me an episode of the original Star Trek. And apparently it was the same guy who ended up voicing this character. Apparently it was an episode where Kirk, Spock, and whatever go to this planet that's modeled after like ancient Greece or something, and this guy supposedly is the god like Apollo or whatever. It's like one of those major Greek gods, and apparently this guy was the actor for it. That's going back into the freaking 60s. And it makes sense because, again, these are older skewing characters, and you could hear from this guy's voice, if you've ever seen the show, he is an older person. Alex Rosewater, these people are meant to be 40 years or older, or not too far towards 40, that later 20s, early 30s kind of vibe. So it stands to reason somebody with that like 30 years gone from being in frickin' Star Trek could have been tapped to be doing this. So I thought that was always funny. Rosewater is the leader of Paradigm. So think of him less of, I'd say, a Batman villain, and think of him more as a Lex Luthor from Superman. He owns Paradigm City. He runs Paradigm City. Everything that happens, any company that exists, is his. He has his hands in it. He has the money. He has all the big fuck off buildings and resorts and all this fun junk, and he has basically any person, including Angel herself, under his beck and call. Certain people aren't always affiliated with him, but he can always like figure out how to get them on his side. So he's a very charismatic villain too. And he's opposing Roger and Big O just because, well, he wants all that shit for himself. Maybe not Big O himself, and I'll get into that as to why. But when we talk about the plot, but suffice it to say, Alex and Roger butt heads on occasion, and it goes more and more and more as the series goes on, and eventually those two do butt heads as the main villains. I'd say early on, the other two major villains, one less comical than the other. Let's start with the non-comedic one, is Schwarzwald. I can't believe I pronounced that right. Schwarzwald. It's a naming convention for something known as Black Forest. So Schwarzwald is voiced by Michael McConaughey, who, again, one of these voice actors, you don't have like a role per se, but if you've like watched an anime and seen a villain, it's probably him. I know him from mostly like this, and then Margulis from Xenosaga. Again, characters who were in actors who were in Xenosaga. Go figure. But he's like one of those guys that like has the best villain voice because it's all gravelly, and like he's got the maniacal laughter that you could only dream of whenever he gets to do it. So it's like one of those people. Schwarzwald is this reporter who kind of goes absolutely batshit nuts. Rosewater asks Roger to give him his severance pay, so he'll shut up. It's basically hush money. Roger finds him, and Schwarzwald has his own Megadues. How he found it, God only knows. How he managed to get it operational, God only knows. But because he found it, he ended up suffering these insane burns. And every time Schwarzwald appears, he's missing an eye, which is replaced by like this glass lens. And the rest of his hands and his face are just wrapped in these like mummy bandages. He's just disgusting. And he's a nutball. He's just owns every scene he's in, and his whole thing is he wants Paradigm City. He wants to learn why Paradigm City is the way it is. Paradigm City is the setting, and he tries to understand why the people live in this, I guess you would call it a cage. So he's going to use this big fuck off monster that is as strong as Big O to do that thing. And one of the later episodes is him trying to convince Roger, like he's at this like masquerade ball, and he's sitting there, and he's like, I just want you to see this. And there's these montages of these like nobles just like ripping up some chicken and turkey legs, and these people like getting drunk and having sex and dancing, and it's the debauchery party kind of thing. And it's like, these are the people you're trying to protect, and why are you doing it? So I'll let the city burn. And then everybody's masks just burn, and he just watches as like all of them jump out of the high-rise building. So not only are their masks on fire and their faces are on fire, he's watching people plunge to their deaths, and then he fights Roger with his own like giant fuck off machine. So he's a villain who is willing to go to extreme lengths to learn the truth of the city, and he's not affiliated with Rosewater in any measure. He's a rogue person trying to find his own way through life, but his methods are very insane. On the more comedic side, you have Jason Beck, voiced by Bob Buckles, who was kind of that, like, again, not really a defined role, like one that I would just, everybody would probably know, I guess, or say anime fan, I guess. My best guess would be like Outlaw Star, and this is going like mid 90s, right? Same era. Bob Buckles was Gene Starwind. I don't think I've ever actually watched Outlaw Star all the way through. I know he was that guy, but he was in other shows like Wolf's Rain and Ghosts in the Shell. He was Jason Beck in this. Again, I like the actors. I like knowing them. So it's kind of fun to see the person behind the, and even in just a dub sense, like you're still adding something to the character. And I think what Jason Beck is, compared to somebody like a Rosewater or Schwarzwald, is he's a dork. He has the knowledge and know-how to be a petty crook and use his knowledge to be a petty crook, and he revels in it. He has a fascination with our Dorothy Wainwright in the sense that he can use it to further his schemes of, stealing money or learning, like, stuff. He's not as concerned with what Paradigm City is like Rosewater or Schwarzwald is. He's just like, I'm there to be comic relief, in most cases. On occasion, he'll be serious, but it's like near the end of the show. So it's like, all right, whenever you see Jason Beck, you're kind of like, okay, well, this episode's meant to be a joke. Okay, whatever, let's just have fun with it. So he's there to be the side villain of side villains whenever they just need a comedic break. And then one more is Alan Gabriel, voiced by Crispin Freeman. And alongside Stephen Bloom, Crispin Freeman was like my favorite voice actor from that era. And again, another guy who was also in Xenosaga, go figure. But Alan Gabriel's whole thing is he is the Joker. He just laughs about everything. He's also an android, much like Dorothy, but unlike Dorothy, he likes to kill people, and he likes to just laugh at people and just make jokes. And I think Freeman did an amazing job of just like laughing up a storm. Like every time he speaks, he tries to do this like weird high pitched voice that he, because he does have a low voice, a low register in most cases, like a gravelly, like low voice, and yet he's able to just like portray this like crazy ass, like high pitched guy with this weird breathy smile and smirk and laugh, and it just works. I don't think Alan Gabriel does a whole bunch as a character, but the performance is what really sells it to me. So second season goes on, and he's Rosewater's right hand man, and he's there to fuck with everybody, and he ends up piloting Schwartzwald's Mega Deuce as well through shenanigans, right? So as far as plot goes, to tie it all into the characters, let's see if I can do this. So the city itself is known as Paradigm City. Alex Rosewater owns everything. Like I said, Lex Luthor kind of thing. There's kind of a divide between the regular people and those who have the money to like live in domes, live in like skylight areas, like big greenhouses. So it's sort of class system kind of thing, but not really. It's not super defined. Just imagine like if you're rich enough, you can live outside and have your own like secluded space to yourself, or live in a posh mansion or something. If you're not, you're kind of living in the middle of the city in a slum kind of thing, and you do get a bit of dichotomy there on occasion, and it does change who Roger works with, because he will work with mostly nobility or the rich, but he will also work with poor people too. It's just dependent on what missions he feels like are worth his time and worth his money, because he's not charging by the hour. He's making a lot of money really quickly for these jobs that he does as a negotiator. So again, they could involve mad scientists who are creating these robots. You could have this. There was this mystery about this guy who is supposedly dead but came back to life. You've got the mystery of Schwartzwald, who you're supposed to pay him to shut him up so he stops fucking with the city, and then he ends up fucking with the city anyway, and burning his severance pay. You got working with Paradigm and saying, well, we want you to go and do this thing. So Roger has this like, I don't want to really do stuff that involve Rosewater or Angel to that matter, but he always kind of intersperses himself by accident, so everything kind of revolves around Roger, Angel, and Alex a lot, because they're always interacting with each other. And then of course Dorothy's in the mix, trying to figure out what her place is and all this, and then Dawson's along for the ride as the military police, going, why the fuck is everything blowing up around me? The other hook of the show, other than the Batman aesthetic, is this idea that 40 years ago, something happened. Nobody knows what happened because nobody remembers what happened. Everybody got amnesia. But humans, androids, and giant machines and whatever live in this Paradigm City. Some people get their memories back of, I was this person, or I was this person, or I have this know-how to repair machines, or I have this know-how to build like ships to go underneath the sea and check out these ruins. Everybody has these like little memories of things. Like Jason Beck, for instance, has memories of being like he has the knowledge base of handling androids and giant machines, so he builds a bunch of them. He uses them for heists and shit, but he's very well-to-do as a scientist for some strange reason. It's just that he chooses to use them for, petty theft, as opposed to somebody else who creates our Dorothy as this, like, not an angelic figure, but as like a daughter figure, or a granddaughter kind of thing, and you've had that before. Like, you lose a family member and then you just, create somebody to look exactly like them, that sort of thing, but nobody remembers. So there's this thought that memories themselves are valuable. Memories of the past, or what we were as a society before 40 years ago. Why 40 years ago? It's an arbitrary term, but whenever somebody mentions 40 years ago, it's like older people remember their lives from 20 years ago, or somebody doesn't remember and they're trying to remember why they don't remember, that sort of thing. So it's this, everybody has amnesia, but they know there's something. So there's a rush to find them. And it's funny because the robots themselves, the Megaduces, have memories stored in them because they're robots, right? So you can extract their memories and stuff, and I'm kind of shocked it doesn't happen more than it does. Like, on occasion you'll get like 2 or 3 like discs, these DVD things that people steal and then get the memories, and then it results in something else in the next episode. I'm kind of shocked it doesn't happen more than that. Mostly because I think in one of the early episodes, Angel finds out that Roger just beats the shit out of a monster, and then the memories are gone, right? So it could just be that. It could just be whatever memories exist are blown up because Roger has to beat the shit out of whatever's threatening the city. So it's not that Roger himself doesn't care. It's that he knows that more knowledge that goes to Angel or Alex or Alan could be used for devious purposes. So he is kind of like indirectly involved with their mess. So while he's doing these side jobs as a private investigator and negotiator, he's also dealing with, why are Alex and these people so interested in all these memories? But he's also trying to figure out why I am this person that I am. They do explain it. I might as well get into that now. Consider this a spoiler warning for this section and for the negatives. So I'll put up a spoiler bumper for that for the timestamp. That's the least I can do. But for instance, if you've never watched the show, I'm going to be talking about the second season and all the revelations that Big O does. So it'll probably take 10 or 15 minutes to talk about, for better or for worse. But there we go. So start of the second season, and like last episode of the first season, the mystery of who Big O is, who Roger Smith is, who Angel is, who Alex is, ends up becoming this like season-long mystery of we are these tomatoes. That's the term of tomatoes. In essence, they're genetically engineered humans and clones, for lack of a better term. They would deny it all they want, but the the predecessor, Alex's father, Gordon Rosewater, is this person who oversaw all of these experiments to create humans. Megaduces also existed, these giant robots, Big O, Schwarzwald's big duo, and what ended up becoming Alex Rosewater's big foul really late into the show because he develops it. Those three are kind of the main like gigantic fuck off things that were existing in what was known as like a Megaduce war or robot war that blew the shit in 40 years ago. People don't know that. At most they see some visions. What they end up finding out is that Roger, Alex, and whatnot were artificially created for the express purposes of piloting those things. Schwarzwald may or may not been. It's not as defined. I think he was at least chosen by Big Duos to be like, okay, I can pilot you because I know how to do it. Because they do make it a point that if you don't know or are not capable of piloting these big ass fucking machines, they won't let you run them. So it is a badge of honor, basically. And if you're unsure of yourself, that fucking guy does not want you piloting them, or will, in certain cases, kill you if you're wrong. So there's this race to figuring out who they are. And it's not just Roger and Alex trying to figure out who they are while they're trying to battle each other. It's this weird, group of people called the Union. There's this character named Vera Ronstadt who shows up midway through the series, and she leads this union of people who are like downtrodden individuals from other countries who are trying to end oppression from Alex, and they send Angel and Alan to, fuck with him, and it turns out like they're not easily trusted and whatever. I don't know if the Union themselves really matter a whole bunch. Like, they add them in there as extra antagonists, but it's like between like the 2 or 3 main ones and then the, Schwarzwald and Jason Beck on the side, you're like, well, why do I need this Union thing? It felt like a really big cluttered mess. I believe they add it to justify what Angel's role in this, and that's again one of the main problems I have with the show. And I don't fault them for trying to end the show, because you got to end it somewhere. But you end up finding out. I said before that Schwarzwald's trying to figure out what the city is. So later on, as the city is getting plunged into this gigantic war, Big O fights off Alan Gabriel, who was piloting Big Duo. The last 2 or 3 episodes are Roger and Alex are fighting in these giant fuck-off mechs, right? And the city's being destroyed, and they're blowing shit up, and all the while Angel and Vera are with Gordon under the city, in the underground somewhere. Angel and Gordon found their way there, and Vera was just, fuck it, I will fuck with you. Turns out Angel and Vera knew each other from like 10 or 15 years ago on this like movie set or this TV set. It was basically a TV set. Angel thought she lived in the mountains in this cabin, where it turns out she just lived in this TV set. Vera ended up raising her as a daughter, I guess. And then it gets really super convoluted because Vera tries to do another fucking monster, and then it blows up, and then she dies, and then Gordon finds out that Angel is like this being of power. He has this book with him. You can see where I'm starting to get all confused already. They're trying to answer all these questions in 2 episodes. This is one of those fucking shows, right? So the book he's had forever, but it's been incomplete. The more he's around Angel, the more he realizes that Angel herself was the one who wrote the book. And according to the show, Roger and Alex are fighting. Angel is trying to stop it. As Big Duo, Schwarzwald is, climbing higher and higher and higher. You get this narration for like the last 2 or 3 episodes where Schwarzwald is like, this city was just a stage. It was a stage all along, and we're just actors and all this stuff. And Alex is like, what the fuck? My city was a lie this whole time? And, so Foul and whatever fight each other off, and this other fucking... Yet another giant machine comes in and absorbs Big Foul, so Alex Rosewater dies, and then like Roger makes this this thing to Angel. He's like, we're alive somehow, don't wreck everything that we've made. And yet they meet each other, and then it just stops, and it resets, and it's like, I'm trying to make heads or tails of the ending myself as I'm speaking, right? That's why I put the spoiler warning there, is because even I'm kind of like confused to this day what the fuck they were trying to go for. They had all these like, I don't think they couldn't have done it in 20 episodes. It's like the way they ended up explaining everything didn't add up completely to make sense of it all. They had like 3 or 4 ideas they could have come up with to tie everything in there, but then they just pulled a big fucking, it was a TV show and we reset the button. It wasn't like the it's all a dream sequence, but it does end up feeling like it. It almost felt like a cop out. And again, Roger, Angel, and our Dorothy are alive, and they remember, like, I think they all remember, or I think Dorothy and Angel specifically remember. Roger doesn't. So they reset the world, and the show ends, and it's like, like, my brain hurts. Like, the show is great, and then the ending happens, and I'm just like, I don't know. So again, it's kind of like, I want to like the show for what it is, but the ending is one of those things where you wrap your head around it and kind of doesn't add up all the time. That being said, it's still a good show in the sense that you have these giant mech battles that do a lot of damage, and you have that, like, well, you're the one causing all this damage. How are you going to pay for it? You know, they say they do that sort of stuff in the Avengers sometimes, and they say your actions have all these consequences to people that you don't even know. Angel and Dorothy and Roger and Dorothy, like, they play off each other as main characters so well. Excuse me, my voice is starting to crack. So Roger and Dorothy, like, ask each other, do they actually like each other or even love each other? Roger and Angel try to work both sides of the issue and are like, I love you, but I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you're trying to do, so I don't know if I can fall for you, but I but I also, like, there's that love triangle there. But they also know that there's something bigger than just them falling for each other, right? So you have these competing forces that add to the drama of everything. And it all ends up, even with the ending reveals aside, you have this just consistent tone of, it's a mystery show, it's a film noir show, it's got comedy, it's got action, it's got all of these fun things that go on and work together. And I think it's a show that stands on its own, despite some misgivings about how they try to wrap everything up. I think it's still a measure of how you can take all these Americanized influences in a Japanese show, or whatever show, whatever style show. You can make a show that isn't specifically, like, geared towards your audience. You can make something that stands the test of time as a sort of gateway. Like, I would not know this is a Japanese show unless I saw it from, an anime-based TV show or an anime-based channel or Adult Swim, right? This is one of the things I could show my parents, and they'd be like, "Oh, this is like Batman, this is like James Bond, but it's got these gigantic fucking mechs, right?" That sort of thing. So it's always fun. The last thing I do want to mention, because I think everybody who watches this would laugh at me or hate me if I don't mention it, would be the opening theme. And suffice it to say, the opening theme, and this is the first opening theme. It's going to be the same opening for both seasons, but they changed it around, and I think in actual subsequent DVD releases and whatever, they don't even have it anymore. But I think you could still find it on YouTube. It's the first season's opening. It's this, like, cool ass Flash Gordon Queen, like, Bohemian Rhapsody kind of vibe to it. All the dude says is Big O. He just says Big O, Big O, Big O, Big O. He's just yelling it for like 3 or 4 sequences, and then he does like this little like mid bridge thing, and then he just goes back, and this alarm is just playing. Like, the song is this big ass drum beat and these alarms going off. It's this psychedelic fucking mess of an opening. It's like for a minute and a half, but it's so good. I couldn't, like, not reference Big O and not talk about the opening theme. And the ending theme is good too. I like the music that Big O has. The music in the show is this mix of bombastic fight scenes and the typical big fucking drums and orchestral stuff, but then you have this softer jazz, and sometimes you even have these guitar themes hidden in there, but it's a lot of piano work, a lot of saxophone work, a lot of, like, neo-noir kind of stuff, and you add on this big bombastic fuck off opening theme that is so good and so memorable, and it's like, oh god, the music is so good. So yes, even though I have misgivings about the ending, I don't have a misgiving about anything else in the show. The characters, their motivations, the visuals, the references to all the Batman and James Bond nostalgia, the way the show looks, the way its show acts, how they interact with the robots and stuff, and even the memories and the, like, how that whole amnesia thing plays out. It's still an interesting enough show that it was one of my, like, go-tos as a teenager. It's hard to find these days because the streaming service High Dive has the first season. but at least they have the first season available. I don't know about the second season, but I do believe that Blu-rays are still available. So if people do want to watch the show, which I would highly recommend, get a Blu-ray version of both seasons, and I guarantee you will have a lot of fun with this. It's one of my favorite shows. I'm not going to say maybe top 10 or top 20, but it's certainly up there. I would want to go back and see it if I had access to it. I might even get a Blu-ray CD just to watch it again. I'm reciting all this stuff off of memory, to be honest. That's why only one season being available kind of sucks, because you want to experience the whole thing. And again, this is one of the shows that I think anybody could watch. A kid, a teenager, an anime fan, their parents, a fan of Batman or James Bond or those old 60s or 70s like sci-fi shows. It can cross over and be a really big hit for people if you can find it and watch it, which I would highly recommend. Oh, but that'll do it for me. And you can hear it in my voice. I love Big O. But that'll do it for Big O today. Starting next week will be MetaCon highlights. I've got my schedule for the convention. It starts this Friday, so I'll be going to a couple of days worth of conventions. I haven't been to a convention in about 3 years. I will be able to meet a lot of voice actors. I know that Quentin Flynn, who did characters for Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy VII Advent Children and Kingdom Hearts, is kind of the main guest of honor, the main voice actor. I'm glad that they brought him back. I met him about 10 years ago. He's an awesome dude. It's nice to know that voice actors, that I recognize. That, again, that's why I care so much about giving these people their proper dues, because if you go to conventions, they're usually the guests of honor, and it's usually actors who, unless they're the bigger names, don't get a lot of the publicity that, the main, Hollywood actors would. But they do deserve a lot of credit. So I'm happy to see them around there. Other stuff like samurai sword displays and demonstrations and, these fan panels and just all these other shows. Like there's artist galleries and, free food and all this other fun junk, and just this 3-day events. I love these things. So I'll talk about my experiences at a convention. Hopefully people who have gone can, go to their own conventions, or people who haven't gone can be like, oh shit, I need to go to these like now. I would highly suggest that. Because it's not just anime fans. It could be movie fans. It could be Marvel fans. It could be whatever. Any convention that speaks to you, go to them. After that, it'll be, I believe, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and then Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So I'll be doing a couple anime ones in a row, then I'll be doing a couple of video game ones in a row. I do have guests, hopefully after the MetaCon thing. We'll try to set aside from some days. If I'm able to set aside some guests, then I'll change my schedule going forward. Otherwise, we'll have Castlevania and Xenoblade Chronicles as the next 2 video games I talk about. But that'll do it for me today, and I'll see you guys next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.